The cold breeze of early morning whispered through the streets of Lexington, Virginia, rustling the leaves of the old oaks that flanked the grand steps of the federal courthouse. Sunlight was still cautious, casting long amber lines across the plaza as the city stretched slowly into consciousness. Dr. Nia Malden pulled up in her modest silver Toyota Avalon and parked with her usual precision at the side of the courthouse. She reached for her leather briefcase and adjusted the collar of her navy blue coat. Her breath curled visibly in the crisp air as she walked with quiet purpose toward the entrance. Her hair, a crown of tight silver coils, was pulled back neatly. She walked without pretense, without robe, without entourage. That had always been her way. She believed in entering buildings as a citizen first, not cloaked in power, but grounded in humanity. The metal detector's low hum filled the entryway as courthouse staff trickled in. A young woman scanned ID cards at the desk while a man in a blue uniform scribbled something on his clipboard. Then came the moment that would change everything. Deputy Marshal Kent Briggs, broad-shouldered and aging, looked up from his post and spotted her. His eyes narrowed. Something in her poise, the way she held herself calm, confident, unafraid, seemed to offend him. He stepped forward abruptly. "Ma'am," he barked, eyes already full of judgment. "Step out of line." Nia paused, meeting his stare with quiet clarity. "Is there a problem, officer?" Briggs looked her over with disdain. "No ID visible," he grumbled. "You can't just walk in here like some big-shot attorney." Nia calmly reached into her coat and produced her federal judiciary badge. She held it out without a word. Briggs didn't even glance at it. He snatched it from her hand and stuffed it into his pocket. "I would like that returned," she said evenly. His breath smelled of stale coffee and vinegar. "You in a hurry to get somewhere, sweetheart?" The younger guard at the X-ray belt looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Briggs turned and motioned her down a hallway. "Random check," he said, voice low and mocking. "Let's go." Before she could respond, he gripped her arm, not bruising, but forceful, and led her down a side corridor. The room they entered was dim, windowless, sterile. One metal chair. A table of scanning tools. On the corner, a pair of electric clippers. Her heart began to thud, but her voice remained steady. "I do not consent to this. You have no legal grounds to detain me." "Suspicious behavior," he said flatly, folding his arms. She didn't move. Two more officers entered. One held the back of the chair. "This is unlawful," she declared, raising her voice. "I demand your names." They didn't answer. Briggs picked up the clippers. "Standard protocol," he sneered. "Might be hiding something in that curly mop." They forced her into the chair. The first buzz of the clippers echoed through the room like thunder. Thick curls fell to the floor. She sat motionless. She did not cry. She did not scream. But inside, something monumental shifted. Something irreversible. One officer snorted. "Looks better already. Should have come in here without that attitude." Briggs wiped a strand from his uniform. "Now you look like someone who knows her place." She looked him dead in the eye. "You'll regret this." He smirked. "People like you always say that." He shoved open the door. "Courtroom's that way. Don't be late." She took back her badge from his desk without asking and walked out. Her steps were heavy, but not from shame. From fury. Controlled, righteous fury. In 10 minutes, the same man who had stripped her of dignity would watch her take the bench. Outside courtroom 3B, the hallway buzzed quietly. Clerks hushed their conversations when she passed. Some looked down, others away. She reached the main doors. Inside, the courtroom filled with attorneys, defendants, journalists. The air bristled. She pushed open the door. Silence. Absolute silence. She walked the center aisle, past rows of people who now saw her not as a victim, but as something larger. She reached the bench. Her robe waited there, folded neatly. Without fanfare, she lifted it and slid it on. It settled over her like armor. She looked up. Across the room, Deputy Briggs stood by the wall. Pale. Still. Shocked. "Is the docket ready?" she asked the clerk. The clerk stammered. "Yes, Your Honor." Nia nodded. "Then let's begin." The first witness took the stand. Joseph Banner, a retired Army veteran. He recounted being shoved to the ground during a peaceful protest. Cracked ribs? Laughed at? Ignored? Nia listened. She took notes. She never once raised her voice. She didn't need to. A young woman followed, describing how she'd been arrested for filming officers. More abuse. More silence. After the second testimony, Nia called for recess. The room emptied slowly, but she stayed. Only her clerk, 2 bailiffs, and Briggs remained. Then she spoke. Deputy Briggs. Step forward. He did. Hesitant. Ashen. State your full name for the record. Kent. Kent Briggs. How long have you worked here? 18 years. She leaned forward. In those 18 years, how many women have you manhandled without cause? He blinked. Stammered. I didn't know you were a judge. And if I hadn't been? Would this have been just another day? Another woman stripped down like a criminal? He had no answer. 12 complaints. All dismissed. Buried. Until today. She stood. Her voice turned steel. Effective immediately, you were suspended. Charges are being filed. You will be escorted out in handcuffs. The cuffs clicked. He was let out. No dignity. No words. The room didn't cheer. But it changed. When she returned to the bench, she didn't sit. Not yet. She held up a folder. This is the Malden reform, she declared. Effective immediately. Bias training, psychological evaluations, anonymous reporting, public oversight, zero tolerance. This courthouse will no longer be a fortress. It will be a mirror. The courtroom held its breath. Later that afternoon, a representative from the DOJ handed her a sealed envelope. This building is under federal review. Title 18 violations. Video footage. Witness testimony. What happened to you is a civil rights violation. Nia accepted the envelope without a word. That night, she returned home and stood on her porch. She didn't check the headlines. Didn't answer the phone. She just stood there. Silent. Steady. Storm behind her, sky ahead. The next morning, the courthouse stood quiet but charged. People looked at her differently now. A janitor nodded. A clerk whispered thanks. Even a young guard, red-faced, looked her in the eye and said, I'm sorry. That day, before a custody hearing, the entire courtroom stood as she entered. No instruction. Just respect. Because justice now had a face. And it was hers. And she wasn't asking for permission. She was leading.